The morning air outside the military hospital felt heavy, like it was pressing down on every soul that walked through its gates. Soldiers in uniform moved with disciplined steps, their boots echoing against the concrete. Among them stood a man in faded gray overalls, pushing a janitor's cart slowly. His name was Daniel Carter, a single father of a quiet 6-year-old girl waiting for him at home. To everyone else, he was invisible, just another cleaner, another shadow passing through bright hallways. But on this day, the air felt different, charged with something unseen, something powerful waiting to surface. Daniel had lost everything years ago. His wife died during childbirth, leaving him alone with a newborn and a heart full of grief. He left behind dreams of a better career and took whatever job he could to survive. The mop in his hands had replaced ambitions he once held close, and the stained floors became his daily battlefield. No one asked about his past. No one wondered who he once was. And he liked it that way, because the truth was buried too deep, too painful to share with anyone. That same morning, a group of Navy SEAL trainees walked down the corridor with loud laughter and careless confidence. They were known for their strength, arrogance, and pride. Their leader, a tall muscular young man named Lieutenant Harris, noticed Daniel polishing the brass railings. With a smirk, he whispered something to his teammates. His eyes narrowed in amusement as he decided to make a joke, the kind of joke that felt harmless to the one telling it but cut deep into the one receiving it. Harris stepped closer and tapped the cart with his boot. "Hey, old man," he said loudly, attracting the attention of others nearby. "What's your rank?" The hallway grew unusually silent as everyone waited for Daniel's response. Some expected laughter. Some expected anger. But Daniel simply raised his eyes slowly and looked at Harris with a calm that felt unnatural, like a storm held back by sheer willpower. The memories inside him stirred, old voices, old commands, old pain. Daniel wanted to walk away. He wanted to stay invisible. But something inside him, something long buried, refused to be mocked. He straightened his back, wiped his hands slowly on his uniform, and in a low, steady voice replied, "My rank." He paused, not for drama, but because the words tasted heavy. The kind that isn't worn anymore. The trainees laughed nervously, unsure whether to take him seriously or not, but Harris only laughed louder. At that exact moment, the sound of distant boots echoed through the building. The rhythm was different, slower, heavier, commanding. Conversations stopped. Smiles faded. Fear crept into the air. From the far end of the corridor, 5 men in perfectly pressed uniforms stepped into view. Their chests were heavy with medals. Their shoulders carried authority. These were not ordinary officers. These were 4-star generals, men whose presence alone could silence an entire room. Everyone froze. The trainees snapped to attention instantly, including Harris, whose face turned pale. The generals walked in formation, their eyes scanning the corridor like hawks searching for something specific. Doctors stepped aside. Nurses lowered their heads. No one spoke. The generals moved with purpose, stopping exactly in front of Daniel. He lowered his gaze, trying to shrink into himself again, but it was already too late. The moment of truth had arrived. Then something happened that no one expected. All 5 generals raised their hands at the exact same time. Their movements were sharp, precise, and filled with respect. They saluted Daniel. The sound of their boots snapping together echoed like thunder, and the hallway felt like it stopped breathing. The trainees stood frozen in disbelief. Harris's mouth fell open slightly. They had just watched the highest-ranking officers in the nation salute a man they thought was just a janitor. Daniel closed his eyes for a brief second, memories flooding back like a tidal wave. Flashbacks of war zones, burned villages, secret operations, lost brothers, and silent sacrifices all collided in his mind. He had once led missions so classified their names would never be spoken. He had saved lives at the cost of his soul. And then he had walked away without medals, without fame, and without recognition, choosing a quiet life instead. A life of silence. A life for his daughter. The lead general stepped forward, his voice steady but emotional. "We have located you, sir," he said softly. "After all these years." The word, "sir," shattered the illusions in the room. Daniel swallowed hard. He didn't want this. He never wanted to be found. He just wanted to mop floors and go home to his child. But destiny had other plans written into the cracks of his quiet life. Harris felt his legs shaking. The joke he had made now felt like a blade lodged in his chest. He looked at Daniel differently now, not as a janitor, but as something untouchable, something legendary. The air around Daniel felt heavier, fuller, alive. The quiet man with tired eyes now carried an invisible crown no one had noticed before. And for the first time, Harris felt what real shame tasted like. One by one, doctors, nurses, security guards, and soldiers slowly realized they were witnessing history unfolding. Whispers spread like wildfire through the halls. Phones were secretly lifted. No one dared to speak aloud, but eyes spoke volumes. Daniel remained still. He did not return the salute. He simply stood there, breathing slowly, fighting the storm of emotions rising inside his chest like a trapped ocean. The lead general explained that years ago, Daniel had disappeared after completing a mission so dangerous it had altered the course of military history. His file had been sealed. His name erased from records. The world was never meant to know. But now, the country was facing a new crisis, and there was only one man who had the experience to guide them beyond disaster. The irony was cruel. The world now needed the man who had chosen to disappear. Daniel's hands trembled slightly as he gripped the handle of his mop cart. He thought of his daughter waiting at home, probably drawing pictures of their tiny family and leaving them on the fridge. He thought of her laughter, her soft hugs, her little arms wrapped around his neck. He had promised himself he would never return to that world of violence. He had promised her a safe father. But the nation was asking. Begging, even. The generals lowered their salutes slowly, but their eyes never left Daniel. "We're not here to command you," one of them said. "We are here to ask." That word, ask, meant everything. Power was bowing to pain. Authority was kneeling before sacrifice. The entire hallway seemed to hold its breath, waiting for the answer of a man who no one believed mattered just minutes ago. Harris couldn't take it anymore. His pride broke like glass under pressure. He stepped forward, ignoring protocol, and in a cracked voice said, "I'm sorry." Two simple words, but they carried the weight of his arrogance. Daniel looked at him for the first time not with anger, but with understanding. He saw not an enemy, but a young man blinded by the same ego he had once seen destroy good soldiers. Daniel knelt down slowly and helped Harris straighten his shaking posture. He spoke quietly so only he could hear. "Respect isn't worn," he whispered. "It's lived." Tears welled in Harris's eyes as he nodded. In that moment, a lesson was burned into his soul that no training program could ever teach. The kind of lesson that stays forever and changes a man from inside. The generals stepped back, giving Daniel space. The hallway was silent again, but it was a different silence now, one filled with awe instead of arrogance. Daniel took a deep breath and looked at his reflection in the polished brass rail. He barely recognized the man staring back. He saw scars hidden behind calm eyes. He saw pain wrapped in discipline. He saw a legend trapped inside a simple uniform. He thought of how tired he was. Not physically, but spiritually. Tired of running. Tired of hiding. Tired of pretending to be less than what he was. But he also thought of freedom. He thought of peace. The kind of peace he found wiping floors and packing lunches for his daughter. The kind of peace that came from being present, not powerful. That inner battle raged silently while the world waited. Daniel finally spoke, breaking the silence like a crack of thunder through still skies. He said he would not return to war. He would not pick up weapons. But he would teach. He would guide. He would protect through wisdom instead of violence. The generals exchanged glances, and slowly, they nodded. They understood. Legends were not meant to be controlled, they were meant to be respected. Word of what happened spread through the base within minutes. The janitor was no longer just a janitor. He was a symbol. A silent hero who had chosen humility over glory. Soldiers began to look at him with different eyes. Guards stood taller when he passed. Nurses offered quiet smiles. And Harris, once so proud, now saluted Daniel every single time he saw him. That evening, Daniel walked home carrying groceries instead of secrets. His daughter ran into his arms as soon as she saw him. "Daddy, you're late," she laughed. He lifted her into the air, feeling the warmth he had fought so hard to protect. For the first time in many years, he allowed himself to feel proud, not of medals, not of wars, but of the man he had become. The world never officially learned his name. The story was buried, sealed, locked behind classified doors. But the people who saw it never forgot. They had witnessed humility bowing before greatness. They had seen power kneel before sacrifice. And they had learned that sometimes, the greatest warriors carry mops instead of guns, not because they are weak, but because they are tired of fighting. Harris changed completely. He trained harder, but with humility. He learned to see people, not jobs. To feel respect, not demand it. Every time he thought of that hallway, he remembered the sound of 5 four-star generals' boots snapping together in perfect unison to honor a man he had almost laughed at. That sound became his compass, guiding him away from arrogance and toward honor. Daniel continued working quietly, teaching leadership classes in private rooms, mentoring young soldiers, sharing wisdom without revealing his full story. He became a guardian of hearts rather than a commander of battles. Each day, he mopped floors and polished windows, but inside, he was shaping a new generation of warriors, not with fear, but with example. Not with orders, but with character. And so the legend lived quietly, not in history books, not in medals, but in hearts. A single dad. A silent hero. A janitor who carried a soul strong enough to make 5 four-star generals salute. And in that silent hallway, where arrogance once lived, respect was born. Not because of power, but because true rank is never worn on the shoulders, it's carried in the heart.